Usually I laugh at the liberal narratives in the news media, but sometimes it blows the top of my head off, and I have to do a podcast, so here we go. I can't stand this phrase, mostly peaceful protest. I mean, yeah, some people have died, but it's mostly peaceful. Sure, businesses have been burned to the ground, but it's mostly peaceful. You know what I call this? Domestic terrorism. And I remember back in the days, and I'm the older guy, when this country stood for law and order. Those were cool days, by the way. It kind of separated us from the third world countries. It's one of the things that makes America great. That appears to be gone. I've been trying to find out numbers. You can't even find these. Nobody wants to talk about it. But how many people have died because of the protests? By the way, I looked this up on Google, and the newest article I could find was over 3 weeks old. At that point, 17 had died, including 2 officers, you know, those guys to serve and protect. I know that since then, you had the 4 shootings in Seattle, or the nation of CHOP. One of those was a teenager who died. Now, I don't know if you put those in the numbers because that's another nation now, but still, there's been a lot of very indefinite violence taking place. How many hospitalizations have there been? I'm sure hundreds upon hundreds, maybe thousands. How much property damage has there been? How many businesses have burned to the ground? How many lost their jobs? How many families lost their livelihoods because their businesses were destroyed? You know, with that said, I watched this kid being interviewed. I'm sure he was a college graduate. Reporter asked him as they were burning down the small business, "Hey, how do you justify this?" And he said, "Oh man, America's racist. Every institution is racist, and that's part of it. So we're tearing it down, and we're tearing down racism." And then he said, "Plus they probably had insurance." Listen. When he said that, I just went crazy. If that had been one of my sons that had said that, and my sons will testify to this, as soon as I got my hands on them, I would have done the politically incorrect thing, beat the crap out of them. Then I would have sat them down and reminded them of basic economics, which they learned in my home, which is this. Yeah, probably had insurance, but guess what? That business won't reopen for a year or more. Who lost their jobs? And the family that was their livelihood. Listen, dude, you have put them on a road to suffering that is unimaginable. You know, good job. Way to go, you Marxist liberal turd. And then I probably would have beat him some more. You know, I remember back at the Boston Marathon, remember the 2 brothers, 2 bombs, killed 3 people, injured hundreds of others. We saw 4 days of a concentration of, you know, law enforcement that was incredible, and rightfully so. One brother was killed, the other one was put on trial, but I feel for him because this was back in 2013. If this was more recent, his defense could have been, wait a minute, I'm protesting racism and I'm standing for Black Lives Matter. I guess they would have let him go. Domestic terrorism, people. Where is the law and order? And by the way, this is the greatest failure of Donald Trump in his presidency. Not bringing the hammer down on anyone who would destroy other people's lives or property.